It is a football Friday on sportsbookreview.com. Yes, you heard that correctly. We're in the middle of March Madness, but it is a football Friday and time to talk some NFL football free agency, some updates on certain teams. Maybe I can make fun of the Washington football team. Maybe Kyle thinks opposite, and I should be making fun of the Washington football team. But we are sportsbookreview.com, and we're going to talk a little bit of NFL action. I'm Donnie Seymour. He's Kyle Purviance, the DFS Bachelor. It's Friday. We're going to talk football. We do this each and every week to keep you guys updated on the details and what's doing around the NFL. And the good part about this is it lasts for us. Like if you can't come in here and watch it live, you're watching the replay. We thank you so much for that. Kyle, good to be back. You're rested and ready. And we got a couple good topics to talk about here.
Oh, I'm excited. And you know the good thing about the weekly football show? So, it can get chaotic, March Madness and NBA and hockey and all these things going on. It's nice just to go to home sweet home and talk a little football, get your mind around everything. And hey, this has been a crazy, I might say this every year, but it feels like this has been one of the craziest free agency periods that I can remember. A lot of really big name players moving from team to team, which maybe I do say it every year, but I just don't remember it being like this. I think it's been a lot of fun. It's been a whirlwind to try to keep up with. So these shows are awesome and really do appreciate everyone taking their time out, especially during March Madness, to come watch us. So really excited, glad to be here, feeling really rested, and glad to be back. Let's rock and roll.
Yep. Hope the brackets are going good for everybody out there. Yeah. So we certainly wish you on that. I know we have a big sportsbookreview.com contest. If you didn't get in, shame on you because I am in that. And if it's free, it's me. I'm going to hopefully take down that championship with, now that the tournament's underway with Baylor. But, hey, we're a football show. We are going to get after it right now and have some fun. The one thing I do want to point out here, which can't thank you guys enough for coming in, and whether it's college basketball, college football, pro football, NBA, whatever it is we do on the channels, UFC, soccer, everything here is designed for you guys to consume content. And apparently you like it a lot. Why? Because 83,700 people have hit that subscribe button here with sportsbooker.com. And it wasn't too long ago, Kyle, I was telling you, it's like driving forward. Like we have a couple months till football season, but I honestly believe we can get that number over 100,000 by the time we kick off for football. And that's my goal here, to drive that up. But it can't be done without you guys watching the shows, coming in here, having fun, turning those notification bells on, doing big things here on the network. And it's a lot of fun. So, Kyle, we are moving at a rapid pace here. 83,700 on our way. It raises each and every day here, man.
It's incredible. And it really is a tribute to everyone who watches us and supports us. And you mentioned it. I mean, just all the great content it's very rare you get to work with a group of people where you're like, I like working with everybody. There's not a single person I don't like to work with. There's not a single person. If I need advice, I'm like, man, I don't know what's going on in UFC. I head right over to SBR. I really do. College basketball, I go there. Baseball, luckily, we'll have our pretty faces there for that. So there's a lot of good stuff, and they all work so hard, and all the people behind the scenes. So it's a tribute to everyone, but really it's a tribute to all of you supporting us, and we really do appreciate it. It's pretty awesome, and I do think we'll get to that 100,000 before you know it.
That's the goal. That's always the goal here. But now the goal is to talk a little bit of NFL football on a football Friday. Bill Belichick and the Patriots. We're going to start this off right now.
Right.
Interesting concept here, because there's two teams in the league that you always hear every year, Kyle, the Green Bay Packers and the New England Patriots. Oh, what a franchise, Kyle. They don't have to spend any money. They grow from within. They draft. They don't win free agency and get that crown in the first 3 days. They sit back and wait and get the really good deals later in the season. Let me tell you something. You know what the reason for that is? Tom Brady's the best football player to ever play. Aaron Rodgers is a top 5 quarterback to ever suit up. You can mask any deficiency you want. So when we laugh at Bill Belichick, who never could draft a wide receiver, hey, you got Tom Brady. He makes up for it. This same team last year that couldn't get out of its own way and stunk, the year before was practically the same team, and Tom Brady got 12 wins out of that football team. They crash and burn last year. So you know who panics first? Bill Belichick. He can't sit back. He sat back last year. Oh, let's blame it on COVID. A couple guys opted out, but we're the Patriots. We just reload and get after it. They stunk last year, particularly on offense. Now they're loading up. At wide receiver, Nelson Aguilar, Bourne, whatever that is. You know what I mean? That's all I'm going to leave that at. But you did make that move where you had that, run in the past. Aaron Hernandez, Gronkowski, new wave tight ends. They do that this year with Jonnu Smith and also picking up Hunter Henry, which I really like. They added some nice pieces to the defense. But I'm going to say this now, Kyle. It means nothing if Cam Newton is your quarterback.
Absolutely nothing. And you're 100% right. Like, Nelson Aguilar, you're right. Did he have a good year? Probably his best year with the Raiders last year. Absolutely. But if Cam Newton's your quarterback, I don't care if you line up Jerry Rice, Randy Moss, and Marvin Harrison. It doesn't matter. The dude
Like,
can't
why do you need a deep threat, right, Kyle? Like,
Yeah.
why do you need a deep threat if Cam Newton throws a cinder block? Why?
Exactly. They're just missiles into the ground. He has zero timing, zero accuracy. I mean, I know he offers some upside in the red zone, and that's always nice to have with that running sort of option. But it just really doesn't matter to me. So you spend all this money on the tight ends, which I like both tight ends. I like Jonnu Smith. I like Hunter Henry. Both don't seem like they can stay healthy all of the time. But certainly it's better than what they had last year. Remember, it was like Ryan Izzo, and once in a while the Asiasi kid would get in there. The tight end position was dreadful for that team last year. So it's certainly an upgrade in it. And when you have a quarterback who's not very accurate and not very good, it's certainly an asset to have big, fast tight ends that can sort of bail you out sometimes. But I just don't see much. For me, the best signing for them was Matthew Judon. I think that's a fantastic signing in the linebacking core. But other than that, I don't see how the offense is going to be that much more dynamic. It just, without a quarterback, if you're going in with Cam Newton as your starter, I think you're destined for another 7-9 season. I just don't see how that's supposed to take you over the top no matter who you bring in.
It doesn't make sense to me here because this isn't the NFL, Kyle, of, 15 years ago where let's run Cam Newton repeatedly during the game. Let's give him 10 carries. Maybe he'll rush for 17 touches. You don't win. I'm sorry. You don't win in the NFL. Like, it's designed to pass and make big plays in the passing game. It's not designed for your quarterback to throw for 135 yards and your quarterback to carry it 12 times. It's just not. And you play good defense and see what happens. And you don't have to be an aerial assault type of team. I think one of those teams that we could pick out, like the Indianapolis Colts, right? Not really an aerial assault, but do everything extremely well. If you go and take a look at the money spent by New England, if they add a quarterback, and I'm not talking about, Kyle, we go in the draft and use some capital and trade up and get Mac Jones, for instance.
Right.
Like, you're still not going to have a great season. I like when teams do go out and add talent. You can't say, hey, look at New England. No. At least they're adding talent to their football team. But the fact that you bring back Cam Newton raises one flag, because then you're saying, like, well, Cam knew he wasn't starting anywhere else, so he just came back because he wanted a paycheck. But then you're going to hear all the tea leaves. Well, he's such a good teammate. And no. He's going to be in the realm for the starting job. If Cam Newton starts, it's a complete downgrade, and they still stay in third place in that division. I still think the Dolphins, if Cam Newton starts, will be a better team, and obviously the Buffalo Bills. But if you make one of these moves and get, just give me a legitimate starting quarterback. We're going to talk Fitzpatrick just a few moments why it doesn't make sense for Washington to go there. But if you put Fitzpatrick on New England, they probably have a playoff team, Kyle. And that's like, I'm going right down the list, like way down,
I 100% agree. Honestly, and, we have a lot of fun making fun of Mitchell Trubisky. I would take Mitchell Trubisky left-handed over Cam Newton right-handed. I honest to God would. I really would. And let me address the chat box real quick. Don't you guys worry, just because it's in a black mug. Don't you worry. I made little margaritas for this show today and for round one. So don't you worry. I'm bringing the drinks strong in here today, and I appreciate you guys for all of the Coronas are still in the fridge. But you're absolutely right. I just don't. As soon as I saw, it was one of the first things they did, bringing back Cam Newton. I said, well, everything else you just did means nothing to me. It means absolutely nothing. And I know Patriots fans don't want to hear that, and I know that they love that their team is finally out there in free agency spending money. But like I said, I really don't care if it was 3 Hall of Fame wide receivers, Steve Largent, put whoever you want. Cam Newton can't get him the football. So I just don't see the point.
No, and you're correct. The thinking behind the process behind this is get him because they have an elite offensive coach in Josh McDaniels. He's a crumb bum, to say the least, leaving Indianapolis at the altar. And you just have that ego that he has. He went to Denver. I'm going to bring the Patriots here, and it didn't work out. But he's still a really good coach. He's still one of the best coaches of all time, Bill Belichick. And I do like the chance that they can switch up and add talent. But a lot of this doesn't matter. Like, you can have the best Major League Baseball team 1 through 8. If you have no pitching and no bullpen, it doesn't matter who your 1 through 8 is that can put up 6 runs. You know why? Because you're giving up 7 or more. It's the same feeling I have with the Patriots. Look, you can hold teams down. You can't win 17-14 in the NFL anymore. It doesn't work that way. And I can see it right now. If Cam Newton's a starter, he'll have a really good September, Kyle, right? Ooh, look at all these toys he has, and he looks good. Then that arm starts to drag by November, and then they're getting shut out or scoring 3 points like they did against either the Chargers or the Rams last year on the West Coast. You're like, I can't even believe I'm even looking at the Patriots as a chance to bet on. Like the fact they spent money, but they just need to add more. And a couple people, saying, look at Kyle, like all dressed up there. I have firsthand knowledge from behind the scenes. He's down to his last strike. So look at him putting on a new face here, right? Isn't that the case?
That's right. I always got to check every morning I wake up, check my email, and it's a big sigh of relief. So I say, yeah, you better step up the game just a little bit so maybe you can push that email off a couple more days. It's always my favorite thing to do. But you're right. Until I see them with an actual starting quarterback. And how do you feel if you're Jarrett Stidham too, right? You're like, oh man, I must be so bad that they bring back. And we've heard it. How much did we hear it last year? Even from our boy Flash, who's a Patriots fan. I want Jarrett Stidham. I want Jarrett Stidham. He can't be that good if you're bringing back Cam Newton to be your starting quarterback. So there's a lot of problem in that quarterback room, and there's just nothing left out there. So their only hope, they're going to have to use some draft capital or maybe get lucky in the second or third round. Like, we've seen it plenty of times. It's not a guarantee that you take a quarterback in the first round, they're going to be good. What was the stat from 2009 to 2016?
Or even good right away. Like, we're trying to focus on 2021. So if they go out and get a young kid, he's going to make mistakes. And very rarely do they step in like Justin Herbert did. I'm like, whoa, this kid can play right off the bat. Right,
exactly. But we have seen it, right? So from 2009 to 2016, every quarterback drafted in the first round is now on another football team. So there are some of those things that weigh into it. So maybe they do find a gem in the third round, maybe the kid out of A&M or the kid out of Florida. You just never know. And I think, we'll get to Washington. I think they could be in line for those guys as well. But going in with Cam Newton, if I'm a Patriots fan, all my hopes were dashed as soon as I heard Cam Newton's our starting quarterback. Completely dashed. I don't care who they sign.
Yeah, and we take a look at 30-1 to win the Super Bowl for the New England Patriots, and then just to win the AFC East, Buffalo Bills minus 155. They're now even with the Dolphins, plus 350, which is still a deep shot. Jets pretty far off at 15-1. So they did move a little bit, and you should. When you add to your football team and nothing else is really going on in your division, you are going to improve your odds. But we're waiting and betting on if New England gets a quarterback, then you could take it to the next level. Because if they get a legitimate starting quarterback, Kyle, I actually would bump them a little bit over the Dolphins. And not because I don't like the Dolphins or where their trajectory is. Aren't we still like a little like, ooh, I want to see more out of Tua here. So
Sure. And I do like what the Dolphins did adding Will Fuller. I think that's a great signing for them.
I like that. That's a great one. Yeah.
They might only get 3 or 4 healthy games out of him. I know he was healthy last year, but then boom, he pops up on the PED list. So it sort of explains some of that. So we'll have to see how Will Fuller holds up. But yeah, it would have to be a significant upgrade from Cam Newton for me to put them above the Dolphins right now. But if they did, they'd be right there because they're going to have a good defense. There's no doubt about it. That defense is going to be better than they were last year. They're going to get those players back from COVID, sign Matthew Judon, who I think was a terrific signing. So they're going to have a good defense. We know Belichick is probably the best defensive mind we've probably ever seen in the National Football League. Just that offense, I don't have any hopes for that offense.
Yeah, the explosivity is what we look forward. And Nelson Aguilar played some decent football for the Raiders. As an Eagles fan, trust me on this. Yeah. It's a lot easier when you play out west in warmer weather and dome conditions, because as soon as the wind starts swirling, and it does at Foxborough, that 45-yard pass to Nelson Aguilar where he looks like he had maybe 16 beers over the last hour and a half and has no idea how to track the football, that's going to be out in a big way. And we're going to be like, how did they sign this guy? But it's still the offseason. Maybe he turns it around. We'll see. But if we keep on moving here, taking it from the AFC East all the way out to the NFC West, the team that's signing a lot of guys, Rodney Hudson was a great move here for Arizona.
Yes.
And I don't know what the Raiders are doing, but it's apparent, just a joke over the years, them and the Bengals, being the Raiders and the Bengals, the two cheapest organizations in football and very cash poor. If you remember not too long ago when they were signing Antonio Brown, the rumors coming out saying they had to structure his contract because they couldn't give him too much up front, not because of the salary cap. They just didn't have any cash to give him up front, which is amazing for an NFL team. It's also why the Oakland Raiders have been in LA, have been in Oakland, have been in LA, have been in Oakland, and now find themselves with the Raiders down in Las Vegas, or the Raiders find themselves in Las Vegas because somebody would give them a stadium. How about Stan Kroenke? Say what you want about the Rams. He's like, you know what? You're not going to give me any money? Here's a couple $1 billion. I'll build my own stadium. No big deal.
Right.
The Raiders can't do that. So now you're seeing them cut players and harm themselves against the cap with good players like Hudson because they can't pay the guy the salary coming into the. Think about that. It's amazing that that's allowed to operate. So now you get a really good center for the Cardinals. I like that upgrade. But the joke is this. You see A.J. Green go to the Cardinals, right? You see J.J. Watt go to the Cardinals. And Larry Fitzgerald might come back. And I go, Kyle, this is 2014. We got something here, man.
Right, exactly. Like, the Cardinals fans are pretty funny to me. Like, okay, J.J. Watt, that defense was really bad for the Cardinals. There's no doubt about it. A.J. Green, what are we getting out of A.J. Green? He played a full 16 games last year and still only caught, 523 yards? And I mean, for the large part of that, Joe Burrow was slinging it all over the place. They were throwing the ball 55 times a game. And I'm looking to verify that to see that they actually did sign Kenny Golladay. If that's the case, good
Yeah, I'm
signing
trying to
for the
stay off
Giants.
Twitter. Yeah, exactly. I hope you guys are updated because I'm going to take. Usually, I don't take anybody's information unless checking it, but I'm trying to stay off there so we can focus on football. Go ahead.
Right. That's what I was trying to. I was like, oh God, Kenny Golladay to the Giants. How much that'll help? We'll have to see. But I mean, I'm not really bumping that. I think the Rodney Hudson thing, you're absolutely right. Great signing, one of the best offensive linemen you could have gotten, probably the best with Trent Williams being re-signed to the 49ers. Probably the best offensive lineman you could have signed. So that is a great signing. Protect Kyler Murray. Try to get something out of that running game. We'll have to see who the running back actually ends up being with Kenyon Drake leaving to be the backup for the Raiders. But no, I'm not really bumping them up much. I don't think A.J. Green does much for it. Now, I could be wrong, and he could rejuvenate his career, but we're talking about a 33-year-old wide receiver that finally played a full season last year, didn't look all that great doing it, had a couple shining moments. We hit some of those on our DFS show, hit some picks on A.J. Green at minimum salary. But for the most part, like, the passing game wasn't the problem for the Cardinals last year. Christian Kirk and Hopkins were just fine. They were actually a terrific duo out there, and Larry Fitzgerald did what he could do. So really, I just think he got a little bit slower and less explosive if you take Christian Kirk off the field. So to me, the Cardinals, they still haven't done any work on their secondary. They lost their best secondary player in Patrick Peterson.
Yikes.
To the Vikings, which I think was a good signing for the Vikings. I know Tiburon was asking about the Vikings. We'll have to see. I'm not sure that's necessarily enough to put them over the top, but it's certainly an upgrade to a dreadful secondary. But that's the problem with the Cardinals. They couldn't stop anybody. Their defense just simply can't stop anybody. I know they signed J.J. Watt. Is that going to transcend your defense? I don't think so. I know he had, in terms of block shedding rate, et cetera, had a pretty decent year. And, you got Chandler Jones on the other side. I do like the backup defensive lineman they signed for some of that pass rush. I don't mind that either. But, for me, the NFC West is the toughest division in football. Russell Wilson looks like he's staying put. We're going to talk about that. But the 49ers and Rams are going to be the standard bearer there when they're healthy. And without a defense that can stop anyone, I just don't think the Cardinals are going to go out and start outscoring everyone because they signed A.J. Green. Just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, and A.J. Green, all-pro level guy a couple years ago. Obviously, J.J. Watt is going to be a Hall of Famer, as well as Larry Fitzgerald. So, again, 2014, this team would be steamrolling up and down the field. And you can see those names like, ooh, A.J. Green, ooh, J.J. Watson's team, Kyler Murray. Oh, my goodness, what's going to take place? Well, let's get back to the basics here. Rams in the division, plus 175. 49ers, terrible year last year, but we know what they're capable of, plus 200. Seattle Seahawks, a mess right now. And Russell Wilson not happy, plus 280. You know who's a deep shot in that division? Yes, the team that's signing all these old heads, plus 550. Will their offense be fun? Cliff Kingsbury runs a pretty good ship over there. Veterans like to go there because he doesn't grind on you. It's not like, hey, we go to the Patriots. It's not fun. Yeah, we get a paycheck, but it's not fun. We go out to Arizona. We get the nice weather. We get the cool coach. We can hopefully win some football games. They are still a deep, long shot in the NFC West to do some damage. So I think we could say, look, adding talent, you're never going to get something out of it that says that's a ridiculous move. But you also have to quantify and say, what are we really getting? And leave J.J. Watt where he goes from Houston, right? And you read some of the stuff comes out, he's like, I ain't going to miss that guy. All he did was worry about himself on defense. If there's a pass rush, he went after it. You know what it reminds me of? And he still has a little bit more juice in his tank than the other guy. If you remember when Bruce Smith went to the Washington Redskins back then, now the Washington football team, he needed sacks to try to, be the all-time sack leader, move his way up the charts. And it used to make me laugh because no matter the situation, a horrible teammate, first down, second down, third down, he's just trying to sack the quarterback, and that's all he cared about, and really hurt that defense because he said, hey, if I get one sack, but I blow 16 plays where I don't keep the edge, I don't care. I just need sacks. I get that type of feel here where he goes out there, but we'll see what happens. Last thoughts from you, Kyle, on the Cardinals here. Do they have I don't think they have. It's the NFL. Guys can get banged up. Hey, Stafford stinks. 49ers never bounce back, and the Seahawks, Russell Wilson is off the deep end. I understand that. But looking at it today, I just don't see the Arizona Cardinals winning the NFC West.
No, I will say in terms of teams who are long shots in their division, they're probably the best all-around team in terms of, if you look at teams who are plus 550 or more, you'd say, oh, yeah, the Cardinals are the best of the bunch. So I would say I suppose there's value there, but I think that's a great point about Bruce Smith, too. Look at the Texans last year. They couldn't stop the run. Why? They had no lane discipline, And a lot of that was J.J. Watt trying to be a stat compiler, channeling his inner Drew Brees and trying to get all the stats he possibly could. We'll see what happens with Arizona. I haven't seen anything on the defensive end that makes me think they've improved. In fact, I think they've probably downgraded, especially in the secondary. So I think it's going to be a long year for that defense. Kyler Murray is going to have to be really, really special for them to win that division.
Exactly. And if you can equate, I always like to use sport to sport comparisons. Maybe if you don't understand what we're talking about football, picture this in the NBA, right? A guy gets 3 breakaway dunks. They all make it on ESPN Sports Center, but he's a minus 32 for the game. Like, what did you really like? Man, right. He's such a really good player because you watch the highlight. Whoa, JJ Watt just that was an amazing pass rush. And then you watch and say, well, how come Houston's defense can't stop anybody on the ground? Well, one guy's always rushing the pass, rushing the quarterback, so leaves it up there. Now, this is a fun one. I've been we have the Bill Belichick Cardinals. I love to talk Bears, and I don't know why I have a kinship. Like, I used to do some work in the Chicago market, but there's such a passionate fan base, and I enjoy the pain. Like, I've been a Philadelphia Eagles fan. We got our Super Bowl trophy, and I'm died in heaven. I'm a lot different. I would be a lot different person, probably not even in this business if the Eagles haven't won, because I'd just be so stressed out and off the rocker. Right. But I'm a little bit kinder as I get older. But the Chicago Bears, man, you have Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace. They're only looking out for themselves right now. Even if, because I see on the news and you see ESPN or, Fox or whoever, and they say you have to just give whatever you can to get Russell Wilson. So they offer 3 first-rounders, 2 starters, and another third-round pick. And I say to myself, if you are the ownership of the Bears, do you want Russell Wilson? Yes. But Russ, I don't want to say on the downside because he still has a couple more really good years left in him. But am I letting guys make a decision on really they're worried about the Bears, just getting back to the playoffs? Say, we went to the playoffs. The expand, just because we had Trubisky last year and stunk, we got to the playoffs, we can do it again. You have to look for the overall health of the franchise. So if I have guys saying, hey, look, we'll give away 4 first-round picks to get a quarterback. If I'm ownership, I'm saying, wait a second here. We're supposed to build a football team, not sell it and hope this quarterback works out, because if he doesn't, we're all going to get fired. But having it from the quarterback perspective, the coach perspective, and the GM perspective, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So number one, I'm going to ask you, if you're the GM of the Seahawks, do you make that trade knowing that the Bears would give you anything you want to rebuild? And secondly, if you don't get the trade worked out, you sign Andy Dalton and then you introduce him as the starter. And in the press conference, Kyle, what do they say? He said, hey, I was only coming here. Yeah, they promised me I'd be the starter. Oh, my goodness, Bears fans. Oh, my.
Let me just say, one of my best friends is a Bears fan, and he literally called me after all this, especially at Dalton signing. He goes, I don't drink, but I just went and got a bottle of whiskey because this is depressing. Bears fans are already depressed. So in regards to the trade, it's a huge offer. I think it's kind of funny, 2 starters. Who would those 2 starters be?
What happens if it was Khalil Mack? What is Khalil Mack they were talking about,
And I mean, if I'm Seattle, I think long and hard about that. He's already unhappy. I'd probably do the deal. I actually tried to do this trade on Madden just to see if the AI would do the trade, and I couldn't even get enough slots in the trade to make it happen. But just throwing the 3 first-rounders are yeah, let's do it. So if I'm the GM of Seattle, I probably do. I'm probably done with all the drama of Russell Wilson. Now, I'm a little biased. I'm not a big Russell Wilson fan. I think he's a great player, and you always have a chance when he's your quarterback. But he sort of bugs me as a person. He's the guy in college, none of his teammates went to his 21st birthday. He's sort of a fake guy to me, so I'm not a big Russell Wilson fan. So I would just do the trade if I'm the GM, tired of the drama, tired of him always whining, tired of him not getting along with the defense, tired of all the nonsense. So I do 3 first-round picks, a third-round pick, depending on those 2 starters. Now, if I'm the owner of the Bears, I'm listen, you dudes are hanging on by a thread. I barely brought you back, if that's the case, and who knows, Bears ownership is so bizarre. I can't even believe they brought him back in the first place. I mean, these 2 are an absolute train wreck. Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace have got to be the worst GM-coach combo I have ever seen, especially in Chicago. Really bizarre situation. I don't know what I know what they're thinking. I think you're exactly right. They're just thinking about themselves and trying to get another playoff run to keep their job. But I mean, we've seen how this works when you basically sacrifice your future to get the quarterback that you want. Ask Washington how that turned out. Let's, ask the Eagles how that turned out. I mean, they did get a Super Bowl, but it wasn't because of the player they traded up for. So I think that's real dicey. It's really funny that they offered it. I'm actually surprised Seattle didn't take it because I think I would have taken it. I honestly do think I would have taken it. Russell Wilson, a great player, but imagine what you can do with that sort of draft capital in the NFL.
And if you're John Schneider, like the reason why I would look is he can't trade. And I understand that if you're GM, because Russell Wilson should be, another 5 years of you being GM. But true GMs don't look at their own, sanctity in the organization, saying the only thing I'm worried about is me keeping my head above water to keep a paycheck here. John Schneider's well built there. He's got a Super Bowl. He could go anywhere he wants. So at this point, because it's not as if Seattle was the favorite to win the division because they're third in line here. So that gives me another ammunition saying, wait a second. Okay, we bring Russ back in the next 2 to 3 years. Our goal as an organization is to win a Super Bowl. If we hit the reset button now, we shred some payroll, we pick up 3 first rounders, which means we have 4 first rounders, or it's basically 3 and then our own and, whatever that comes out to be the next 3 years. You can really build something. And once that money opens back up with that monster NFL deal that came back, you can really make that run, because that's the way from a GM perspective I look at it. I ask myself now, can I win a Super Bowl right now or over the next 2 years with Russell Wilson? Probably not the way the division is setting up. So I look to reset and say, all right, when Matthew Stafford is sort of on the back end, when the 49ers have been run through, maybe they ran Shanahan out of town for what reason I don't know, or the Cardinals, Cliff Kingsbury didn't work out, we're in position to make another run. But again, I can't fault the GM, because if you trade Russell Wilson away, you're going to have to, answer a lot of questions on that. But number 2 comes from this perspective. I love Russell Wilson. How does this come out just out of nowhere? Like Russ is like, I'll go to 4 teams. Like if I'm ownership, I'm like, hold on, Russ. Yeah. We give you, you're paid just about as much as anybody here. We give you whatever you want. You are king of Seattle. And out of nowhere, you say, here's 4 teams. I don't want to go anywhere. But if you wanted to, ship me off to these teams. Like, what is the deal here?
That's what I mean. Russell Wilson is fake and hard to he's a diva. He's a closet diva. People don't think of him that way because he's so nice on camera and he does great things for the community. But he's really bizarre. And piggybacking on what you're talking about, the GM of the Seahawks, how did the Seahawks get on the map in the first place? They drafted Russell Wilson in the 3rd round, had him on that rookie contract, and spent all that money to build that dominant defense, right? And it sort of became, the blueprint for these teams. Hey, let's get a quarterback on their rookie deal. Let's build this amazing team around them and see what happens. And that's what made Seattle this sort of, continuous type dominant team in the league, because they were able to build this defense. Once they had to pay Russell Wilson, what has happened? Now the defense, they played better at the end of the year last year, but we remember halfway through the year, we're like, man, this is a historically bad defense. The defense starts to, get a little bit angry and frustrated with the offense and with Russell Wilson because you're giving him all this money. So they should just follow their own blueprint that they just followed when they drafted Russell Wilson. They would have. We've already seen that be a successful way to build a football team. So I'm actually surprised Seattle said no, not even looking at their own history and realizing this was a path to success. And even just if you're a Bears fan, you have to be absolutely disgusted. And we got to touch on Andy Dalton. So you already know now in Chicago, okay, you're never going to compete in a primetime game. You're going to be absolutely embarrassed in every primetime game there is. The only games that they have a chance of winning are 10 o'clock games when they're not on national television. That's the only time Andy Dalton is even remotely competent. I'm furious. You may as well just kept Mitchell Trubisky or Nick Foles. Like, why in the hell would you?
Exactly, with the Nick Foles deal. Like, what is the point of going to get Dalton? Like, you're thinking, you have Nick Foles. Not to say he's the end-all, be-all, but a competent, at least backup quarterback he could be. Mm-hmm. But here's the problem that we already brought up and talked about. The head coach and the GM can't go young at quarterback, because if they don't make the playoffs, they're gone. And you can't operate a team like that. And ownership, again, I get back to it, when the Grandma Bear is 95 years old and bringing these guys over for milk and cookies, that's who's running your franchise right now. And you have to understand that, being as a Bears fan. The money train keeps rolling in Chicago regardless of what happens. But the fact that you have a head coach and GM who signed Andy Dalton, who already have Nick Foles, basically saying, well, maybe Dalton could be a little bit better than Foles, and maybe we can get 8-8 and be back next year. Unbelievable, Kyle.
It's a loser mentality. It's bottom line. It's a loser mentality. And that's why it's such a big mistake when you bring 2 people back who know their job is on the line. They're not going to do what's best for the future of your team. Yes. You're absolutely right. They're going to do what's best for them. And every move they've done so far signifies that. And then bringing Andy Dalton is just the icing on top. It's absolutely laughable. I will never forget the pain in my friend's voice after that signing. And it
caught him, even you're talking about your friend, how much does it catch you off guard? When the tweet came out, I said, I have to read this a few times. They signed who and which team did this? And it was the Bears. I'm like, when pundits, immediately when you see that and they go, what is this? Kyle, it never works out, ever.
No,
ever.
And you promise him he's going to be the starter. He doesn't even have to compete for the job.
He's smiling at the press conference like, yeah, they told me I was going to be the starter, and that's why I came here. And the Bears fans like facepalm, like, holy cow.
The depression from that fan base. I am so grateful I'm not a Bears fan. Just get ready for a long year, and if it's Monday Night Football and the Bears are on it, you may as well turn off your TV because that's going to be a long, brutal, ugly game.
By the way, Kyle, there's a meme going around Twitter right now. It's a great one. It's a guy with his face and a smiling and then basically like in utter shock. It's from Wheel of Fortune, and the letters spell out Russell Wilson and Andy Dalton. So the first one says the Bears quarterback is going to be, and you could sort of see the second one can spell Wilson, and then it turns out to be Andy Dalton, and he's furious. It's so on point. It's hilarious because that's like you were going from rumblings of we're going to get this guy to all of a sudden we got Andy Dalton, and I could just see the people of Chicago just going nuts here. But I'll tell you another big quarterback move here that happened in the NFC East, and to me, I can't figure it out right now because I'm only reacting on what we see right out of the gate here. Ryan Fitzpatrick goes to the Washington football team. Get rid of Alex Smith. And you know me. Look, Alex Smith is a good guy. I don't know why I always have to preface this because people get angry at me. I don't hate the man. He's an unbelievable man, great family man who comes back from a devastating leg injury to say, you know what? I made it back and I'm an NFL player again. Awesome stuff, but terrible in the football field. And Washington goes, you know what, Alex can't play anymore. Sorry. Great comeback player of the year. Get out of here. I'm like, they got a real front office now. Then they go and sign a guy that's even older in Ryan Fitzpatrick. Now, just reacting to it as if Washington is going with Fitzpatrick to be the starter. Is it an upgrade on last year? Probably so. But talking about a futuristic standpoint from Washington, whether they win 4 games, which I consider a great season for Washington, hear me out, as opposed to 8 games with Fitzpatrick, if I'm a Washington fan, give me the 4 wins and give me a quarterback. Not a 39-year-old who's not my future. But it could change, Kyle, if they brought in Fitzpatrick, who's a great teammate. Guys love him. He's fun to look at and, say, hey, look at the beard, man. Fitzpatrick's out there. I get that from being just a strict fan there. But if they go out and draft a quarterback or add a young kid, I'm going to say, you know what? I respect this move. But if Fitzpatrick is my starter for Washington for more than 3 games, it's a disaster for me as a fan.
Yeah, listen, so we're going to disagree just a little bit here, and I actually hear everything you're saying, but I happen to love Ryan Fitzpatrick probably more than I'm supposed to, and I still think he can sling it. We know you're going to get those 5 interception games. That's always going to happen with him, and that's why he's so
totals, though. I do like him, Kyle.
Yeah, he's great for team totals. He's great for Gale, and he's fun to watch. He'll dive headfirst across the line. But I will say, when you look at the quarterback market, so they moved on from Dwayne Haskins, absolutely the right call. When you looked at just the quarterback market, you knew you couldn't go with Alex Smith again. The guy just can't play anymore. Taylor Heineke, you re-signed to sort of be a backup, a younger guy. But there really wasn't anything left out there. I mean, you had the Andy Daltons. I would take Fitzpatrick over Andy Dalton any day of the week. They only signed him to a 1-year deal, and I think the point you bring up is great. We don't know what they're going to do in the draft, and I would expect them. Maybe they move up. I've heard some rumors that they try to move up in the top 10 and take Mac Jones. I mean, I've heard that rumor for about 30 teams now already, but nonetheless, they do have some draft capital. They have the 19th pick. They have their 2nd-round pick. They have 2 third-round selections. So there is some draft capital to move up and take a young quarterback. Maybe they wait till the 2nd round and take the young kid out of Florida or the kid out of A&M. So he, in my opinion, he's the best mentor for a young quarterback in the league. He's unselfish, doesn't seem to have an ego, really tries to help them develop. So you're right. Like if you're like, hey, Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's our answer for a couple years and that's what we're going to do. No, that's silly and that's nonsense. But when you look at the NFC East, not a good division. Washington's defense is going to be, in my opinion, one of the top 2 or 3 defenses in the league next year. I love the William Jackson signing. I think that's really underrated to replace Ronald Darby. We already know they have a vicious front 4. They can get after the quarterback. They were top 5 in nearly every defensive category you can think of. And we would say it over and over again. If Washington had a competent quarterback, they would really have a chance to make some noise. We were so excited they were starting Tyler Heineke in the playoff game. We're like, this actually gives them a legitimate chance to compete.
What are you, crazy? Alex Smith would help so much. No, if you actually watched the game, you understood why he actually gave you a chance. Good point.
Yeah, I mean, they only lost, by 2 points in that game? What was it, 28-26? They legit, gave Tampa Bay a run for their money in that first round. So I do think it helps them. It's a 1-year thing. I don't know who else they could have gotten. There wasn't some young quarterback growing on trees that they could go grab unless you wanted to take a shot on Trubisky. Or maybe you could have talked the Raiders out of Marcus Mariota. That kind of would have been the path I would have saw. I think Mariota would have fitted nice with that team, give him another chance, a younger guy. But as long as they get another quarterback, I'm with you. They draft a young quarterback. I think this is a dynamite signing. He can really help the young guy, give him this sort of stopgap. And they can, they finally added some weapons in the passing game. They can throw the football around a little bit and take some of the pressure off that defense. Washington's a sneaky team. I do think there's some futures value on them. I threw a few bucks on them when they signed Fitzpatrick because for some reason, I just love the guy. I can't help it. I absolutely love Fitzmagic. I love the 7 interceptions and I love the 6 touchdowns. I love everything about the guy. And I think he's a great teammate. He'll help a young quarterback, obviously. Not what you want for the future. I just don't know where else they could have went in the free agent market, what they were going to do at quarterback, unless they were just going to go Taylor Heineke, which seems like a really, really bad decision to do.
Yeah, Washington is organizationally trying to, make a lot of changes, and I don't think it's necessarily because they wanted to make the changes. It's amazing when you have an empire like you would an individual NFL team, what these owners will go through. Because if you look for the last 20 years, the worst owner in football, it's not even close, is Daniel Snyder. Yeah. So many allegations, so many, charges against them, and racism inside and out, and doing whatever they do now. But they make that turn, like, all right, we're going to fix everything. We're going to hire a lot of females to be in our front office. We're going to hire a lot of females to do like broadcasts. We're going to hire as many minorities as we can to change it. And it's still the same owner, though. Do you know what I mean? It's all masking. Right. It's saying, I'll do whatever you want me to do, and as long as you don't kick me out, tell me who I have to sign. Minority as a head coach, which I love Ron Rivera. I don't mind that move because somebody has to gut the franchise and restart again. But every single thing they do is a virtue signaling move as opposed to worrying about their football team. Specifically, by the way, one of the more famous cheerleading groups in the entire NFL for the longest time, Washington Redskins cheerleaders, we're going to do away with that. We're just going to make it a dance team. That doesn't make any sense to me, because that's an owner saying, I have to change everything because what I did all the time was wrong, and I'm not going to sell this team. I want to make money, so I'm just going to go out here and make all these ridiculous changes, even change the name. And forget, I always bring this up too. We're talking about a lot on the football field. Oh, are we getting a name? Is the NFL stepping in and saying, guys, you have to pick a name? It can take 10 hours. Ask your fan base in a Twitter poll, what name do you want? And there is your new name. Are we going into the season as the football team again? Because I don't care. I'll go back. I won't call them the Redskins, but I'll just call them the Skins for the rest of the time. I'm not calling them the football team. I'm sorry. I am not calling them a football team as their nickname. Get out of here.
The Schneiders, I don't know what we call them, but you're right. They aren't embarrassed. That's embarrassing. I mean, how long have you had to change your name? And all these, like you said, these virtue moves, it does really reek of insincerity. It really does. They're just trying to, so they're focusing so much on all this, so people stop talking bad about them. Look, the damage is done. Daniel Snyder, we know you are a joke. We know you don't care about what your workplace looks like. We know you don't care about any of that stuff. So you're not fooling anybody. And if you are fooled by it, I got a bridge to sell you. I mean, give me a break here. It's so insincere. But what the product they actually have on the football field, especially on that defense, they are doing some things right there. And that Ron Rivera is a perfect guy for that scenario, especially if they do get a young quarterback and Fitzpatrick's mentoring him as well. There's a lot of good things happening there. Stop embarrassing yourselves. You're right. Just put a Twitter poll and give a name. I'll give him a name right now, the Washington Renegades. Done. There you go.
Done.
Great name. Throw it up.
Yep. Warriors, whatever. It all makes sense, because when you get back to the point where it wasn't so long ago, 2 years ago, where he's in interviews going, I don't care what anybody says. I will never change the Redskins. It's what we are. We're not using it as a derogatory term. It's history here. And you know what happened? Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia said, hey, Daniel Snyder, you get no money for a stadium until you change that name. Oh, you know what? We listen to the fans, and it looks appropriate to change the name right now. Every single thing is a virtue signal from this guy, because if what a DC, Virginia, or Maryland in that Delmarva Peninsula said, we don't care what you do, you're going to get money for a new stadium, he would be on his high horse going, I ain't making no changes. And if the NFL didn't come in with it, maybe you're talking about minority owners trying to force him out and leaking stuff to the press saying, what an idiot, what a moron he is. And it's still not able to force him out, and he's making all these changes. So good luck on the Washington football team. And again, maybe he wants to sign Fitzpatrick so they make 8 wins and get that 7th playoff seed or whatever it might be. But we do have differentiating sides. But I preface this by saying the same way I think about New England, same thing I think about Washington. Getting a different quarterback in there with these guys makes all the difference in the world for me, Kyle.
Yeah, and if they don't go out and find a young quarterback, you'll see me jumping straight from my side to your side, because you'll be absolutely right. It's really prefaced on, I expect them to, it makes sense for them to, but again, we're dealing with an organization that can't even give themselves a football team or a cheerleading team for that matter. Like, did anyone think you guys were monsters because you had cheerleaders? No, we thought you were monsters for how you treated the cheerleaders. You don't need to get rid of that. Just stop treating them terribly. It doesn't seem that hard, but apparently for that moron it is, and that's why they'll continue to be the embarrassment that they are. But I do, if they get the young quarterback, I think Fitzpatrick could be a nice steadying presence for them early on and sort of help the kid out.
Imagine the war on cheerleaders, Kyle. Where do we come in this country?
Well, yeah,
good,
I don't want to live in this
cheerleaders cheering on the team, and now we can't even have that, and we have to have dance teams instead. Another day, another dollar on those type of things. But let's talk a little bit about the 2021 NFL Draft coming up. Not too far off, because we're finally at free agency, as we've seen here. Yeah. Now in a couple weeks, we will be in draft mode. No combine in Indianapolis, and thank goodness for that. I can't think of 3 or 4 days of TV from the NFL Network more waste of time than a silent jumbo stadium with 3 people in it while people run the 40-yard dash, and then we say, boy, that time is going to turn some heads. Hey, he can't play football, but boy, he's really fast. He'll move up in the draft board. Enough of that stuff. But let's talk about quarterbacks here. Zach Wilson and Justin Fields keep on popping up here. And again, a lot of the stuff behind the scenes we don't get to see because they're not making the rounds. They're not flying in the football teams. They're basically going to have a pro day. Then you got to make your decision. So the good part about that, Kyle, to me is NFL teams that are good at breaking down film to find a player, that is to their advantage. Not saying, I don't know about this player, but you know what? That cone drill, that sold me, which is ridiculous, as opposed to just popping on the tape. If I'm asking you now, forget about who's drafting or who needs what. If Zach Wilson and Justin Fields are in the draft, I'm going to ask you first, who do you draft first out of those 2 guys?
I really like Justin Fields. I love the upside of this kid. I think he's a more polished passer than people think. When I analyze these quarterbacks, I like to look at what they did against their best competition. Like, I don't care what Justin Fields did against Mid-Valley Atlantic State. Ohio. Yeah, I don't give a damn. But when you watch that Clemson game, you're like, holy cow, this kid can play. Runs a 4.4 40. I like the poise that he answers, in those interviews. I think there's a ton to like about Justin Fields. He would be I know everyone loves Trevor Lawrence, and, it looks like he's going to be great. But when I just look at that raw upside, that sort of Deshaun Watson upside, but even faster, I like Justin Fields quite a bit. Zach Wilson seems a little undersized to me. I know he's got a little athleticism too. And BYU does have a history of one of my favorite quarterbacks of all time, Steve Young, right out of BYU. Ty Detmer, who was great for your Eagles and my 40. Well, I shouldn't say great. Solid. Okay. Solid for him. I think great's an overstatement. But there's just something about Justin Fields that I really like. So for me, it's that massive upside that Justin Fields possesses. I'm not as big on Zach Wilson when I watch it as everyone else. I don't think he played the same elite competition either. I think if you put them on the same exact team, I think the team with Justin Fields would win more games than the teams with Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson will be an interesting one because I think he's a better version, and this is a slight on Zach Wilson, a better version than Johnny Manziel. He has that athletic ability, but better head on his shoulders, if I could say that. Justin Fields, you're right. He's the thing that he gets downgraded on, Kyle, is he comes from Ohio State. And we've seen this same model quarterback being pumped out of there that just does not work out in the NFL. But having said that, he's the best version of anything that's turned out of Ohio State, making it to the pros. And you're talking about in the range of a body like Cam Newton now with a live arm, the right institution. And you bring back to the quarterback factories. Like, I don't know if he would fit in extremely well with like a Kyle Shanahan or maybe a McVay where you have that pinpoint passing, but you're talking about like a Frank Reich Indianapolis team that's really going to work on, short passing game, protecting the quarterback, running the football, or even, dare I say, what New England is trying to set up. Because again, he's a better form of Cam Newton, a younger form of Cam Newton for me, but with a better arm and more accurate. To me, if I'm just going in as a GM, it's hard to say you don't want upside, because if you're saying I want a day one starter who might be ready to go right away, it might be Zach Wilson just from a pure passing standpoint. But You're right. One dude is playing the best level competition and the other guy is playing Coastal Carolina. No slight to Coastal Carolina, but yet still a slight to Coastal Carolina.
Yeah, I'll slide
Give me the bigger kid. Exactly. Give me the big kid that can take a bruising, can run the football, and seems to be coachable. I would take Justin Fields over Zach Wilson here.
Yeah, I completely agree. Just a lot to like. You just go rewatch that Clemson game. You're like, man, this kid can make every throw. Yes. He can escape everything under pressure. I love the humbleness that he answers. When he answers the question, shows a good head on his shoulders. I don't think this is another Dwayne Haskins. Certainly, in my opinion, not another Dwayne Haskins. Now, when it comes to what the NFL teams will do, most likely Wilson's going to go number 2 to the Jets. You can see that in almost every mock draft that there is. So that seems to be a pretty safe bet. But I'm telling you, that upside of Justin Fields, something about him I really, really like. When Deshaun Watson was coming out, I really wanted the 49ers to draft him. I'm a 49ers fan, of course, as you all know. I kind of have that feeling about him. Plays his best in the big moments, really shows up when his team needs it, can make any throw on the board, can throw on the run. All of that stuff about Justin Fields. I've got high expectations for Justin Fields. I'm going to be excited to take some team totals on whatever team he's quarterbacking next year because I like Justin Fields quite a bit.
You know what the best part about this argument is for some reason our society, professional football, GMs, and just in general, we love a little bit unknown that we haven't seen that much that flashes. Because you'll get people out here that still nitpick. Like we knew from day one, first 5 throws from Trevor Lawrence, that guy's the number 1 overall pick whenever he decides. And then we spend the next few years and go, yeah, well, he won 50 games, lost 2 games or whatever. But I don't know, man. I don't know about him now. You're saying you don't know about him now. He's better than you even thought he would be. But then again, you see Justin Fields, the big and the strong, and you go, oh, I've seen him play really good football, Kyle, and dominate some SEC teams. But boy, this kid from BYU who played Coastal Carolina and a mixed mash of teams, I'm really excited about that guy. What is that about us?
I don't know. We're just weird creatures. We have problems. That's probably why our country's all screwed up. We just have mental issues and we always want what we can't have and what we don't know. That's just what human beings do. That's why I'm divorced, for Christ's sake. That's a very valid point that you bring up. But I would have liked to seen Zach Wilson go toe to toe with Alabama and he struggles. Right. And be duh, he's a 5th rounder. Is that the way we work in this world? You just take everything out of 1 game or 2 games, or hey, he didn't play anybody, but he looked really good. Those old arguments, boy, Timmy Chang and Cole McDonald out in Hawaii, boy, they would be awesome in the pros. They throw for 6,000 yards, but it's not really the case. You got to line up against who you play in those spots. Who was that lineman? Was it 5-6 years ago that the Raiders drafted, and he had done nothing in college, and then he went into the combine and lifted 800 pounds and jumped 45 inches, and so he ends up getting drafted in the 1st round. I can't even remember his name. He's out of the league now.
David or like an Arnett. Boy, he ran really fast. So we really didn't have him on our board, but he ran fast. Let's take him round 1. I mean, it's amazing.
Darius Hayward Bay right there.
Yeah. Stuff like that all the time. Mike Mamula back for the Philadelphia Eagles a long time ago was the first workout warrior where, hey, we could have had Warren Sapp or whatever, but no, we're going to take Mike Mamula because, boy, he bench pressed and ran a cone drill pretty fast. But that's the way we are as a society. Nice little Football Friday show, Kyle. 45 minutes, action-packed in here, designed to bring you the information to get you ready, for football season, even though we're 6 months away. A lot of big things going on in the networks. We just announced a new Major League Baseball show right here. Me, Kyle, Jason Radowitz, Monday through Friday, starting up opening day. And the good part about that, too, is you say, hey, that's going to be a fun 1 month. No. 7 full months carrying you from the first game to the very last game in the World Series. So a lot of big things happening here. If you want more football content here, there is a box below, or a link below that we should say, sprpicks.com/NFL. Click that link. 83,700 subscribers. If you're watching, hit the thumbs up live. If you're watching live, hit the thumbs down. If you're watching on replay, do the same. But most importantly, hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on when we go live on any one of our content here. And it's a lot of good content we have at sportsbookreview.com. You'll get it delivered directly to you. I'm Donnie Seymour. He's Kyle Purviance. It was a Football Friday in the middle of March Madness. Thank you for joining us, and good luck on your future bets.